Hello to everyone and welcome to our Mechanical Engineering Virtual Meetup May session. And today we talk about BIM interoperability workflows. We have two great speakers today, Gardner from Inventor Product Management Team and Tom Tremblay, instructor, expert elite, and owner of his training company. My name is Anton Fedosiev and I'm the content strategist in customer success organization at Autodesk. Before we jump to the main agenda of the meetup about BIM and BIM workflows, let's quickly repeat how this webinar process is working. So all the lines are muted at the moment to reduce the background noise because we are recording this session. So the recording will be posted on the Customer Success Hub, but also you will get the link with the recording in a couple of days from now, right? If you would like to ask the question, actually, that's the point of the entire session. It's live, so ask as many questions as you want. Use question panel to do that at any point of time during the presentation, because this is Meetup. It's an opportunity for us to meet and talk. So what is Meetup, right? So Meetup, right now, we're in Mechanical Engineering Meetup that happen every second Thursday of each month. So today is the second Thursday, so here we are talking live about different interesting topics. The topic of the month is different each time, but we meet on the same day each month. And we have a rotation of great speakers, representatives of product management team, so don't miss them. But we have more. So Mechanical Engineering Meetup is not the only meetup that we have. We have regular sessions on generative design as well as 6 or 7 other meetups programs happening in different days, but they all work in similar format, monthly meetings happening on a regular cadence. So now it's time to give the stage to one of our presenters in quick safe harbor statement. So we may talk about the future of our products, so which is always subject to change. So please keep that in mind. And with that, I'd like to give the stage to our first speaker, Garin. And give me just 1 second to change the control to him.
Thank you, Anton. Let's show my screen and we'll get going. I appreciate it. Excited to share out a little bit about BPF today and some of the various workflows with Inventor and Fusion 360. Do you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay, so I wanted to go over some different workflows that our customers often talk to us about, that workflows that they work with today, some in Inventor, some in Revit, and then kind of share some new things that we've just introduced into Inventor 2021, and then some things that we're thinking about in the future. So oftentimes over the last several, I'd say many years, we've added some functionality into Inventor to allow our customers to do a lot of building product capability. So, if you look at a building, all the things that go inside of a building, those things are all designed and manufactured. It could be from the fire extinguisher to the chiller on top of the building that gets designed, likely in a tool like Inventor. And then at some point, an architect or a general contractor wants to see that model inside of a building. So, we have tools in Inventor that allow you to take these highly detailed, complex models, simplify them, and put them in buildings. We also see things like custom fabrication, where in these buildings there may be things like ornate stairs, handrails, curtain walls, custom type of fabrication that is one-off to individual buildings. It's not really for the masses. And then we see a lot of building equipment and layout. So, this is factory layout. You've got a building, you have all these factory assets, all these machinery and things that you need to fit in, and trying to find the best way to get those in there, hook them up, and make sure that there's no clashing and issues. And then also things like modular construction. We see a lot more modular construction going on. We have more and more customers that are trying to prefabricate units off-site and then bring them on-site and assemble and put them in. much different workflow than bringing all the raw materials to a job site and creating that geometry there. And then we also have this AEC engineering. A lot of that is simulation and just additional type of tools for some of these workflows. I'm going to dig into some of the workflows we have in the product today that support these different workflows, and then some of the things in 2021 and beyond that will help out in these various workflows. So the first one, this is some functionality that we added some time ago, and it's really taking that highly complex product, simplifying it, and being able to put it on or in a building. Now, oftentimes these are kind of configured objects. It's not something that is for the masses. It may be customized for an individual customer. So, oftentimes there's specific needs around, connectors and things like that, how this thing hooks up, how it looks, configuring it, lightweighting it enough to get on or in a building. And Inventor has some really nice simplification tools that allow you to go through, simplify, and kind of gauge the right level of detail for buildings. And this has been something that's been a bit of a challenge over the years. The engineer typically has a lot of detail in this, and they need to simplify it adequately enough to go inside of a building. Those are things that we continue to try to work on to help both the engineer and the consumer of this find the right level of detail so that it doesn't bog down the building, but provides enough information in the building. I'm going to come back and talk a little bit more about some enhancements that we're doing here in the future. But Inventor has some great shrink wrap lightweighting tools today to do this. And then, for very customized products, you have products like this kitchen hood. This may be something that a customer may want to go on site and actually configure what the hood looks like, specify the size of the hood, be able to visualize it in space, and then once it's done, create a custom order that goes to the manufacturer to be able to manufacture this particular piece. And we have tools like the Forge platform that we're setting up to be able to manage things like this, where you may have very complex sheet metal componentry and whatnot that's being able to be generated on the back with costing and all of that, but being able to have a nice preview for customers to be able to turn on and off what the material is, again, choosing the size. And this kind of customization really lends itself well with some of our Forge framework to do some of this. And then you have things like product families, and these are very common things like doors, windows, chairs, furniture that you may want to be able to have configurations or families that you choose from when you insert it. So these are very standard sizes, very standard things that many customers would want. And oftentimes these are done inside of Revit itself. So even if the manufacturer designs these in Inventor, many of our customers will have these generated in Revit as families if they want to be able to consume them in Revit. And a lot of that is being able to do all the configuration, being able to have all the options and the lightweight nature, materials, all of those things in Revit. So, kind of looking at this, depending on where you fall, you may use Inventor for the lightweighting and building these models. You may use Inventor to design a model and push it through Forge for the automation, or you may use Revit to design or have your product families that go inside of the building. So these are all important workflows. We're working a lot to get better integration between Inventor and Revit to help out with many of these workflows. One such environment is modular and prefabricated construction. So we have a lot of customers that are doing things like these curtain walls or structural members that are, unique size structural members, precast concrete, that are all very specific. They need to have manufacturable data and information around it. But at some point, they need to be able to get it into the Revit model to represent that. And in many cases, they need the Revit model that it's going to be going into as a starting point. So before you build this still member, you need to be able to bring in the Revit model to kind of figure out where the member goes, the size, clash zones, all types of things like that. So those are some of the things that we did in Inventor 2021, really focusing on Revit to Inventor. So allowing you to take just a native Revit file right from Inventor, open it up or right from Revit, open it up right inside of Inventor with some options to be able to bring in just what you want. That really supports some of the prefabrication construction type of workflows that we've heard about over the years. I'm going to play a video here. I'm going to mute it before I start it. And this shows in Revit a larger building. You can see it's a pretty good sized building. But in Inventor, we just want to focus on one key area. There's a little owl's nest. It's a coffee shop. And we want to be able to do some work inside of Inventor for the sunshades around that. So in Revit, saving this to BIM 360, you could save it local to a desktop. From within Inventor, you can browse out to BIM 360 or the local file, open it up. Once you open it up, it gives you some options of the 3D views that were created inside of Revit. So you don't want to open up that entire building. You may just want to be able to grab certain components of that. So you can use the 3D views to filter out just the area that you want to bring in. You'll notice in the browser, we've structured in the browser, you can turn components on and off from the browser. So we really maintain a lot of the look and the feel, the same material colors. And then from within Inventor, being able to utilize a lot of our rich manufacturing tools. We've designed a sunshade up above. There was a part of a sunshade that came in from Revit itself, being able to put some of these manufacturable components in there, creating detailed drawings around that. So really being able to leverage the both of Revit and Inventor together, likely two different teams. It's likely a pre-bid architect that's doing some of the early concept of the building. And then as it gets into more fabrication, passing that off and allowing a design engineer to come in and figure out what's going to work, what's going to fit, looking for structural integrity. And then as design changes happen, it may be that in Revit, that owl's nest changes in some way, being able to re-update that in Inventor, see what those adjustments do to the 3D model, update it in Inventor, and then, work downstream. So then this is really the round-tripping, bringing that Inventor model that was designed in the owl's nest back into Revit to be consumed in the final Revit model. So we started out in Revit, brought some of that geometry in Inventor, designed and worked with that in Inventor, and then what we did in Inventor, we lightweighted that and brought it back into Revit. So those are the type of workflows that many of our customers have been looking for over the years, really being able to tie these two products together much more closely. That's something that we're working with the Revit team a lot. I'm on the Inventor side. We work very closely with the Revit team in these different workflows and tying these things together a lot more. Now, with that, also what about the other way? So talking about kind of some future things that we're thinking about. So everything up till now has been previous in the product or just added into Inventor 2021. Some of the things that we've had customers talk to us about over the years is better simplification, better ways to lightweight a model, and what are some things that we could do there. So I'm just going to hit on some things that we're thinking about. Really looking at finding faster ways to create simplified models. So you saw the geometry that we brought in from Revit. We built that sunshade and then pushed it back to Revit. Well, faster ways to be able to simplify that sunshade to a lighter representation and be able to bring it in very easily. Also the ability to export native Revit files. So being able to just create something in Inventor, save it as a RVT file, and open that up directly inside of Revit. If the Inventor model changes, be able to update that Revit model, and whoever's consuming that in Revit would be able to update as well. So you get this associative workflow from Inventor back into Revit. And then modernize the overall experience. There's a lot of work that we've done in Inventor to modernize our overall experience. Some of that is adding things like property panels, more intelligent dialog boxes that have things like presets. And, one could imagine going into a simplification, choosing a preset that had things kind of configured how they wanted, where it may remove all components of a certain size, simplify it a certain way, and have that as a preset where it's pretty much go into the dialog box, preview it, and then export it out. So those are some things that we look at through our modernization tools. And then also allowing our customers to scale through automation. It may be that there are special needs that they want to do on top of automation to automate some of these processes. So these are a few of the things that we're looking at. If we look kind of at the interface of what this might look like, so going into some of the new property panels in Inventor, you can see kind of an updated simplification experience all integrated into one experience, where you would go into, once you go into it, you could choose that preset. You could then go in and include and exclude whatever components you want to see and don't want to see in your simplification. So in this case, you may have some options to filter by size. Now, some of these options have been in the product in the past. They were in a couple of different places to go through this experience. So one, we're looking at streamlining that, making it a bit more, a lot easier to go through and integrate it in one spot. And then also trying to add additional options to provide a bit more what our customers are looking for. So including and excluding, creating envelopes. Envelopes can just replace maybe a complex object for a bounding box or a cylinder or some other simplified geometry. So being able to specify what components you want to put an envelope around, and then also removing some detail. So, you may want to remove holes and fillets and things like that. Also looking at removing things like embosses. So, you may have some embossed text on something, looking for ways that we can remove that to simplify it. We may not need to see a part number or a decal or a logo on something in a simplified state. And then from here, having the ability to actually export out the file and being able to choose if it's a Revit file. And then from here, one of the big things that we've heard over the years is today we export out kind of a lump single body. So we would take something like this packaging machine and export it all out as a single blob. And it has the metadata and all the information, but it's looked at as one object. And in some cases, that's fine. In other cases, you may have a system of products where it may be an assembly line, multiple of these machines put together, and you want to represent each of those as their own component. Today, you would need to export those out individually to get that. Here, what we're looking at doing is providing an option where you'd be able to choose to export each of those as individual parts. So it may be, one part of the machine is one part, another part of the machine is another part. They both have their own metadata attached to it. So really just providing more capability on that output. So with that, I went through that pretty quickly, but I'm gonna go back to this first slide that I had, and I think we can open it up to some questions and answers after this. But looking at building product and equipment manufacturers, a lot of capabilities that we have in the product today in this experience. We're looking pretty quickly to be able to add some nice enhancements around that. Custom fabrication for Inventor 2021, allowing you to bring in the Revit model directly inside of Inventor, and then in Inventor, do all the detailed modeling and all the things that you need to do inside of that Revit model is much, much easier. Also one of the things we're working on is linking origins together. So, if you bring in a Revit model, it knows where to come into Inventor. You create geometry in Inventor and push it back to Revit. It knows its orientation based on bringing in the Revit model. So trying to be a lot more intelligent about things like that. Building equipment and layout. Again, we have similar to the very first column, we have a lot of tools on the simplification. And there's a lot that we have today, especially with leveraging our factory functionality. And then, looking at kind of enhancing that with better simplification and systems of product export. Modular construction, we have a lot of tools, and this is another area similar to custom fabrication, where starting out with a building from Revit, bringing it in, figuring out how to do your modular construction. So, just talk around some of where we use the different Autodesk tools in the portfolio, kind of the strengths of those tools. If you're interested to look at some of these workflows, we have lots of help topics for simplification, for exporting files, bringing in Revit geometry. These are all things that we have a lot of help topics and ways to help out. And Tom has also got some really great things for that. So with that, why don't we open it up to some questions and answers, and then we can transition over to some of Tom's great stuff.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Garen. Great presentation as always. And we have a couple of questions. The first one is actually about let's call it the older workflow, Inventor to Revit. And it's about transferring the parametrics from Inventor to making Revit families out of that. Do you have any plans to add this functionality, or any thoughts about converting Inventor parametrical models into Revit families?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm not surprised that it's one of the first one that comes up. We do hear this a fair amount. Inherently, there's a lot of challenges. The systems are very different. Revit is very different from Inventor. So we run into some challenges with, we need to lightweight the parametric model, have the parametric information stay in there to be exercised, and then push it to Revit. So, this is something we've milled over for years, and it's a really hard problem to solve. So I don't know that you'll see us go natively from Inventor to Revit as Revit families. However, one of the things that we're exploring, and I think really provides much the same experience, and maybe even better, is being able to take that Inventor model, maybe have it up in and this isn't something that we have right now, that we're just brainstorming, but if you were to have that as a cloud service where you could insert that Inventor model into Revit, while you're inserting it, you could configure it how you wanted, through, you think of things like iLogic, your slider bars, and I want it this simplified, I want these dimensions and whatnot. And then when you hit insert, it actually on the fly converts it to a Revit file, allows you to bring it in, put it in your Revit model. If you do choose to make modifications, you could edit it. It would fire the browser back up. You could make whatever changes you want, and then it would swap it on the fly with a regenerated Revit model. So these are some of the things that we're thinking about, and it is far more capable for us to do things like that than completely exporting an Inventor file and trying to add all the Revit family intelligence in there. So we're continuing to investigate and look into that. If this is something that you're interested in, we'd certainly love to chat more with you about it and, kind of understand your workflow and how and where you do something like this.
Yeah, and Garen, this kind of web-based functionality would involve Forge, right? And design automation on Forge.
Yeah, very likely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Garen, a great answer to the great question. Thank you so much. And another quick one, I understand that huge investment and huge focus for this year was this new BIM interop functionality and connecting to AEC world. But what are your personal, highlights of this release? What other, big changes you would like to highlight in Inventor 2021 or Vault 2021?
Yeah, a couple of them. We hear about performance every year from our customers. There was a lot of work the team did in overall performance, just being able to insert components, do large assemblies faster, inserting different components in there, editing in place, turning visibility on and off, just overall navigation. So, I love what the team did there around performance. We've continued with some of our modernization. Last year we worked on the extrude dialog to modernize it. And when I say modernize, our modernization is really about performance. How can we make commands faster and easier to use and perform, probably more naturally how you would expect them to perform. So there was, some continued effort to scale what we did last year, and I think that's been really well received. Personal favorite of mine, the dark theme. A lot of people either like it or they don't care about it. We've had a lot of customers that have wanted a darker theme over the years. And, based on a lot of feedback we got last year, we were able to get a preview of dark theme into Inventor, and that's been, a pretty popular set of functionality, in 2021. Revit obviously is a huge one for us. This opens up a lot of opportunities for our customers to do things much easier. I had customers I had one customer in particular that showed me a 10-step process that he used to get Revit geometry into Inventor in a specific way. That was kind of on the extreme side of it, but we've really cleaned up and made process of getting geometry from one core application to another much easier, and that's always exciting. So those are a couple of things, and there's well over 100 things in there that are from our customer success team, and overall of enhancements in Inventor 2021 that just make the product better, easier, faster to use.
Excellent. Thank you, Garen. And with that, I would like to give the stage to Tom in just 1 second. Thank you, Garen, so much.
You bet.
Okay, so let me switch the controls. All right, Tom,
all right,
the stage is yours.
Through all right? All right, thank you, Anton.
Yes.
All right, great. And really interesting and exciting changes coming up, especially with the round trip functionality. Of course, worked on the mechanical side for many years, but spent some time with some building product manufacturers as an employee, and of course even worked in the architectural space early in my career. So the amount of productivity that can be gained here and actually working in conjunction is really exciting. And that's one of the reasons that new to the customer success, Autodesk customer success page, we've added a new course. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Is we're going to be looking at the BIM for manufacturing course. It's a relatively brief course, so it won't take you long to get through, but it will give you some insights into the process and into the value of taking your product data and making it available for BIM customers. The course itself will walk you through the process of, after you have your detailed design, simplifying, as Garen mentioned, and that's a critical process, not only to make your products easy to manage inside of a BIM model, but of course to protect your intellectual property. With the enhancements that are there with the MEP connectors, you also have the ability to include the key information about how to properly connect and integrate your products into the building design. It makes things much easier. That way people aren't looking up spec sheets to see what sort of voltage or what size a duct needs to be to accommodate the CFM for flow through, or pipes for the same reasons. And you can build a lot of intelligence into the model. And then once that's done, of course, you just simply publish it for use in the BIM applications and distribute it in whatever way that works best for your business. And then finally, your customers can connect it to the building design. And now with 2021, of course, they can offer you feedback if they want improvements or modifications to your product. So it's a real opportunity to engage at a deeper level with your customers, and it's very easy to do. So the primary, or as far as the course itself, the course content, it's all available online, and it's already up on the Autodesk customer success site. It has an overview of the workflow and tools. There are videos, just a handful of videos showing the process for setting up the model using simplification, then creating the MEP connectors. And then, of course, there are also step-by-step handouts or printable sheets that you can use to kind of remind yourself of the process rather than having to go all the way through the video. And then there are also links to product resources around Revit and Inventor to help you work with it. And of course, one thing I skipped there is the complete data set that is used in the videos as well. So you don't have to experiment with your own product data. So just trying to keep it nice and simple to be able to explore these tools and explore the workflows before you start working with your own data and making the modifications there. Just as a really quick example, I'll show you part of a video, and this one is, we'll just, I have the audio down, but we'll see here. There we go. And I'll fast forward through portions of it. So a quick overview of what the objectives will be. And then this is stage 2 of the lesson, where the model has already been simplified. So all of the internal components, the intellectual property has been removed. And then it just walks you through the process of defining these MEP connectors. The MEP connectors themselves are extremely flexible as far as being able to define shape, size, be able to add more important attributes. Let me jump ahead a little bit here, where you're able to establish what the direction is. That's key for connecting to the BIM model. The BIM model will then understand how fluid or air has to be flowing through it to make sure things are connected properly in the BIM model, so they don't design all the duct work or piping and then get your product on site and discover that there was a mistake in the planning process and everything is in reverse. So again, making your products more accessible to your customers. That's really the key of focus for this portion of the course, just walking through these processes. The processes themselves, as I mentioned, are really straightforward. If you can put together an Inventor model, this will all seem very, very easy. And then finally, on the back end, of course, the Revit user or someone using the MEP technologies can easily pick up all of this information directly from your design and have the connections made automatically or nearly automatically, making it much simpler than simply sending them a step file or some sort of generic CAD data that they have to add a lot of intelligence to. So much easier to work with. It's a really nice way to work, a really nice way to engage with your customers. And this course, like I said, is very straightforward. Now, we've also done several other courses around Inventor and different technologies, Inventor, AutoCAD Mechanical, some of the other tools. And on the customer success site, I see that a link has been put up directly to the course in the chat window if you want to take a look at that or make note of that. Some of the other courses we've put out there are around AutoCAD Mechanical, one of the great secret tools of Autodesk. If you are working in 2D and you are doing anything related to machine design, you really owe it to yourself to take a serious look at AutoCAD Mechanical. It's a phenomenally productive tool. It does things that frankly are kind of magic in a 2D environment. And of course, anything created with AutoCAD Mechanical can be viewed as though it were just a regular AutoCAD drawing by the people downstream from you who need to work with your consumables. We also put together a quick course on using some of the machine design elements using the design accelerators inside of Inventor. In fact, you might notice if your eye is really quick that it's even the same data set as the AutoCAD Mechanical course, or at least the same basic design. So if you are working in 2D and AutoCAD Mechanical piques your interest, you might want to take a look at how the process is done in Inventor. A lot of people that are still using 2D think that 3D is just too hard, or they're going to have to model every little detailed element inside their design. And tools like the design accelerators and of course the content that's already in Inventor really do save you a lot of time, not just with basic nuts and bolts, but far more complex structures like gears, bearings, all the purchase components that typically go into a machine design. So this is a great course to introduce you to some of those concepts. And it's not just, of course, for the 2D to 3D transitioning user, but it never fails when I show design accelerators to a group of very experienced, long-time Inventor users. They're shocked to find out that these tools have been in the product for right around 15 years now. And of course, there are other courses. And I don't know if Anton, if you would prefer to step in and talk about the breadth of the offerings through the customer success portal.
So let me take that, Tom, and thank you so much for your presentation. So let me take it over and I will go full screen as well. Right, excellent. So as Tom mentioned, we released quite a few courses recently, and they're kind of not necessarily focused on one product, right? We're trying to show the breadth and interoperability between different products. So it's kind of more focused on getting the results that you need, not so much on picks and clicks of certain products. So it's kind of considered as interoperability workflows or best practices to get things done, right? And a lot of this stuff was published this year. And I will send the link in a second. And to log in, you can just use your Autodesk ID, the one that you use to access your subscription. So there is no need to create any new accounts. So you already have everything that you need. And I highly encourage you to review the course that we just published about BIM, the one that Tom mentioned. We will also add in the same directory, in the same category, more stuff that Garin covered. So we'll have courses in this space as well. Just stay tuned and we will have more. And also register to the next monthly mechanical engineering meetup that is going to be focused on our CAM capabilities. So what are the different CAM options for designers, right? So we're not going to go deeply into manufacturing itself, but it's more about like what can designers do with CAM, what's available to them, and how to start exploring this space. So all of it is available by the links that I just dropped in the chat window. So take a look, register to those meetups, and take a look at the courses that we mentioned today. With that, I'd like to move into Q&A. So if you haven't had a chance yet to ask questions, open up the questions panel and ask any questions that you have. And the first question actually we have for Tom is about the Revit side, right? Because a lot of the folks in these calls, they're kind of more on mechanical design side, right? And what's happening on the Revit side after the, this product have been published in BIM format is kind of unknown. How do Revit people work with it? So Tom, the course that you mentioned about BIM Exchange, does it go a little bit into Revit world?
Yeah, I know that there was videos put together on the Revit side to show the import and the connection of the model. Are those included? I apologize. I'm not sure if those are actually included in that course.
Yeah. So to
Okay.
kind of add a little bit more meat to that, yeah. So the kind of we also extended the workflow into Revit. So we actually show how the model that you published from Inventor, how
Right.
it is working in Revit, right? So how it's being used. So it will probably give you more ideas in terms of like how can you prep the model, prepare the model, so it will be easier to use for architects.
Right. Yeah, they show the import process and the connection process. It's really remarkably simple.
Yeah. Okay, so this is all that we have at the moment. So the queue of questions is empty at the moment. So we'll give probably a couple of more minutes for questions. And also in the meantime, please do take a look at and save the links that we posted. And register to the next meetup, review the courses, and also take a look at the recording if needed. Like in the future, if you have difficulties remembering all of those links, the destination that I just recommend, one place to go is customer success portal that you can see on the screen. This is one place to go if you forgot where to find the things about learning and meetups, etc. Everything is in there in one website. Okay, so since we don't have any questions, any closing notes from any of the speakers on the call?
I would just say if you're working, if you're developing products for use in buildings, you really owe it to yourself to take a look at the workflow. And of course, now with 2021, it's really exciting to be able to develop some of those products, especially custom products, directly from your customer's model. That's a fantastic addition.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
oh, go ahead, Karen.
I was just going to echo that. There's a lot of I'd say over the last few years some nice enhancements in the area. One of the things that we've heard the most is customers getting up to speed, understanding and utilizing these tools. So, it's great to have some really good help topics to get you going, walking through these things. So I think between tutorials and some of the new functionality, if you haven't looked at it for a while or ever, probably, you yourself just go check it out, play around with it a little bit, see if it provides what you're looking for. Again, the product management team's always looking forward to chatting with people. So if there's an area that you'd like to talk a little bit more about, reach out to us through our beta form, and we'd love to talk to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Karen and Tom, for your presentations. Take a look at the resources that we provided, register to the next one, and in the meantime, have a good rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining us today.